Welcome to our podcast, Talk to Me, Sister. I'm Cathey.
And I am Sarah, and we are twin sisters documenting our surrogacy journey, discussing women's health, motherhood, and all the details that led us here.
Our mission is to not only educate and inform, but to spread joy and hope through our story. Thanks for following along.
Hey guys, it's Sarah and Cathey from Talk to Me Sister podcast. We are recording live from Mexico. We are on our baby moon, and Cathey and Alex are with us, and it's been really fun. We wanted the boys to sit down with us. We kind of talked them into this, but they've been great and willing to tell their side of the story. So let's get some introductions going. We're a little giggly, but times are fun here in Mexico. So, Alex, you go first.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey. Tell the people who you are that don't know you.
Okay, my name is Alex Stoner, Cathey's husband. Let's see. We've been married for 13 years almost. And listen, we all go way back.
Way back.
Ask me how far back we go.
How far back?
I don't even know how many years, but it's been a long time since like middle school.
Like
so maybe
prepubescent. Is that what you say? Is that the word?
Yes,
yeah.
That is
probably.
Like braces.
At least Richard, he's owned it yet. I don't know about me. I can't remember, but.
Wow, y'all been married for 13 years. That's really wild. I'm trying to do the math. We're 33. That means I don't know, but wow.
That means we got married when we were 20, and we've been together since we were 14 years old.
So sweet.
Yeah, and we all went to the same middle school and high school, so
I've been a part of y'all's family for 20 years almost.
Yeah, you're like a bro.
Bro.
Totally bro.
Yeah.
Richard, put down the cerveza. It's your turn.
Buenos dios, everybody.
No.
You can't say that?
No, it's fine. You're good. Keep going.
Say it again.
Buenos.
Why don't you just speak? Hold on. Tell the people who you are. I think it's DS. Oh my gosh. We have to be politically correct on here. Okay, Richard, tell people who you are.
Buenos dias, everybody. It's Richard. I am the dad, Sarah's husband, Charlotte's daddy, and I've known Cathey and Alex for a good while.
Yeah.
Probably 15 years.
And you and I have been married for how long?
We've been married going on 6 years.
That's good that you remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in here because we're going to give Alejandro the floor, and then we're going to talk to Ricardo and get some input on the surrogate husband side of things and the intended father side of things. But I'm going to reiterate that we're in Mexico on our baby moon, and it's so much fun to all be here together. It's just been a blast. So let's dive in, Alex. You're my brother-in-law and also
Correct.
the father of my baby mama.
what should we call you? Like a surrogate daddy?
Yeah, is that what it is?
So
I
what
don't
is?
know.
Because I'm the surrogate mother, so you're the surrogate father.
Oh, you're my surro mama's baby daddy. Maybe?
I
Okay.
like that.
Well, we'll
People
figure it out
know.
later.
Okay.
But so Cathey and I get tons of questions, obviously, just about the whole experience, and it's obviously not a very natural thing, but it's wild and crazy, and we're excited. And a lot of our questions really pertain to you guys. A lot of people are like, well, what is Alex? How did Alex feel about all this? How's Richard feeling with Alex, and how did they have that conversation? And So we've taken some polls on Instagram and just taken notes of what people have asked us, and we have some questions for you.
Okay.
So first, when Cathey first approached you about surrogacy, like initially, and I guess when she prepped you before we kind of all had the conversations.
Yeah.
What was your like initial first thought? Did you think she was cray cray? Were you like absolutely not? Like, or what was your first feelings?
It definitely wasn't an absolutely not. I remember. I mean, we got to go back. Like, this was after your cancer journey and a lot of ups and downs, and Cathey had been with you through that whole process, like by your side through all that. And so I know that she had been looking to support you and walk with you in that journey. And so it wasn't an out of the blue thing, for her to bring it to me. And so because of all that, my heart was kind of warmed up to the idea, I think, anyway. So it wasn't a absolutely not, but it also was kind of a big thing to think about and process. And I think my initial response that night that she told me about the idea was, yes, you should do that. If you're a good candidate, it seems like a really cool thing for us to talk about doing. So let's explore it.
Yeah. Oh.
And I'll say, this is Cathey, I'll interject about the way Alex makes decisions in general. Is it's very rarely, like, I'm one who's like, yes or no, like, really quickly. Like, I don't have to think about things. I know, like, in my gut, initially, like, what I want to do. Not that it's always, like, you should make decisions that way. I'm not saying that.
When you guys were house shopping, you were like, it's the best house ever, let's make an offer.
Yeah.
And Alex was like, wait, let's see, like, 3 more.
Alex wants to make pros and cons lists. Thank goodness. He usually pumps my brakes. So I knew that when we had that conversation that it wasn't, going to be right away. Yeah, let's go. Sounds good. He's like, okay, love this. Let's think about what this looks like for our family. So it was generally how he responded, and to be expected.
Yeah. And so obviously it's a big ask, and we'll talk about that later when we dive into Richard's portion. But Cathey and I had like a lot of previous conversations about it, but your initial thought was like, absolutely, like, let's do it, but obviously you got to process it, and there's a lot of questions, and we had a lot of questions as intended parents too. So as you were kind of researching and you and Cathey were processing it, like, what were your biggest question marks in your head, or fears of, like, maybe why you wouldn't want to do, like, what were your, I guess the question is, what were your biggest, like, fears with the whole process?
Yeah, I think my biggest fear all along was related to getting into it and Cathey being pregnant and things going well, and then something going wrong, you know, and the possibility of losing the baby, and I think some of the downward effects that situation would bring on. I think that's where my brain kept going, was wondering what that would do to our family and our bigger family, our relationships with y'all, and some of the long-term, effects.
Yeah, like how we would handle the emotional side of it, or like, or guilt if something happened to the pregnancy,
definitely
or
more of the guilt on Cathey's part.
Yeah.
I think that's where my brain went, was trying to protect her from that, because I know that would be a long-term thing for her to work through. And
that's like such a like, it's obvious that you felt that way, because like your stance and probably the majority of this journey is like an emotional support for Cathey. So that's a given that you would have that kind of concern. Okay, this is our biggest question we get as far as you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
This is like hands down. This is what everybody asks. How does it feel to see Cathey's belly grow? And now we're looking at Cathey, and she's like full on pregnant. What are we this week? 20?
We're 24 weeks today,
24?
you guys.
That's so wild. And he's moving and kicking. We can like see Cathey's belly when she's laying out. Anyway, so how does it feel to see Cathey's belly grow and then think like, oh my gosh, that's not mine?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it strange or...
It might be a weird answer, but it's really not that strange. I think we've been talking about this for so long, and I've had such a long time to process it that at this point, it's kind of just, playing it out, and it's really not that weird. I think because I know it's not mine,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that it's y'all's, that, I don't know, it's, my brain is able to separate. So yeah, it's not that weird.
Yeah, and this is Cathey. I'll say too that this isn't the first time we've been pregnant, like we've had 2 of our own where my body has gone through this like bump change and gone back. So I think it's so startling the first time it happens where you're like, what's happening,
Right.
But we've done this and been there and know kind of the process, and so it's not like the first time he's seen me pregnant with a bump either, That
Totally.
helps.
That
For
does
sure.
help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was earlier, I guess it was yesterday when we just got to Mexico and everybody was laying out and we had like some sugary drinks. Cathey, I think you had like a virgin pina colada and he was kicking a lot. And you were like, Richard, feel, he's kicking. And I was watching Richard like feel your belly, and then like Alex was in the pool and I was like, is that like so weird for Alex to see like my husband like feel his wife's belly, like it was just like a moment where I was like, Alex was just like kicked back in the pool like, it ain't mine.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but at this point it's like, this is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
And again, we've had so long to know that this was coming that it's just, it's not weird.
I feel like with surrogacy, like the woman is so highlighted, like the surrogate is so highlighted, but like it really is a partnership, like as is a marriage. Like you go through all of the journey together, and I think the man and the husband's support is just as key and important to the whole journey, because the kids are involved, emotions are involved, so.
Mm-hmm.
This is Cathey again. I don't want to speak for Alex, but I've heard him say this, that it also helps that this has been a fairly easy pregnancy on my end. Like some of our other ones, with our own kid, with our first, I needed him a lot because I was real sick, and I just felt blindsided, I think, by the whole process, which I think many do their first time around. So I haven't needed him as much this time.
Yeah, by far, compared to the first 2, especially the first one, this has been the easiest one. And so, yeah, I'm more of an emotional supporter than physically when you were debilitated the first couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're not talking about like my fears, but I think that makes me really happy that this was the easiest, because Richard and I, behind closed doors, like that was one of our fears, that like this was going to be a really hard pregnancy for Cathey. She was going to be really sick, really tired, complications. And that was going to be like really hard on like our emotions, because we were like, it's already a huge ask. So that makes me and Richard really happy that technically it's been the easiest for y'all.
Yeah, and I'll
Pregnancy.
speak, like I'll put my dietitian hat on for like a second and say it does wonders when you prepare.
Yeah.
Like when your body is really ready to do it, it seems to be easier. And I think mentally too, I didn't want to complain too much honestly, for everybody's sake. Like I signed up for it.
Yeah.
You're
pretty resilient though, like as just a human and a woman.
Thank you.
No
Thank you so
problem.
much.
Yeah. So, Cathey, take it away. We decided to like switch up. I was going to interview Alex, and Cathey's going to interview Richard.
Okay.
Let me see if we have... Oh, we have one more question, though, before we get to Richard. Alex, last but not least, we got this question on the Insta.
Yep.
So obviously this was your decision and Cathey's decision, like as a family, that you were going to sign up for this process. But obviously you have extended family, you have a sister, you have a brother, you have parents. You guys are a really close family. Like, what was their initial reaction? Like, they know us because we've all known each other forever too. But what was their initial reaction for you guys signing up to do this? Were they worried? Was like your mom worried, or was everybody, like people at work, were everybody excited?
No, yeah,
or?
nobody was worried, I don't think. If anything, people were curious to learn about the process, but everybody was super supportive, especially family, when we initially brought it up. And Cathey kind of talked my grandmothers through it, and especially generationally, when there's some questions about the process and how does that all work and
Yeah.
all that. So she handled those conversations, but yeah.
So speaking of grandmothers, like surrogacy's been around a long time, but earlier in life when it was around and called surrogacy and it wasn't called gestational carrier, it was actually the woman's egg. So surrogacy used to be like, it was just like a male sperm and like their egg. But did anyone like that didn't understand the process, like did they ask you? I don't know if this is like ballsy for people to ask, but did they think it was Cathey's egg? Did they understand the IVF process?
Go ahead, Cathey.
People don't ask like, did you sleep with Richard? Like they
Well,
don't
no,
ask
no,
that.
not
But
that,
they
but
say
correct.
so like how you know, and
Well,
that's
you-
what they say. And
You
so,
can like see it in their face that they're like confused.
Right.
They don't know about surrogacy. So like you said people are confused on the process. Like, did you have to explain IVF to a lot of people?
Some people, yeah. And if it was my friend or one of my family members, I would have had to ask too. You know, I didn't really know much about it,
Yeah.
and so it made sense. But overall, everybody was super supportive. People at work have been super supportive and encouraging and excited for everybody.
We'll love it. So exciting.
Hey guys, we are excited to share with you our new partnership with Your Superfoods. Not only do they have great tasting product, but they are on a mission to help improve people's health through the power of plants.
I fell in love with their superfood and plant protein mixes after I was diagnosed and started my lifestyle change. One of the founders is also a cancer survivor, which is why I came across their story. I make a ton of smoothies, and my daughter Charlotte loves them too. Your Superfoods is 100% plant-based, no sweeteners, no soy, no dairy, gluten-free, and non-GMO.
So you can purchase with our code SISTER15 and you will receive 15% off your purchase, any purchase, not just your first one. So go to yoursuper.com and use the code SISTER15, SISTER15 for 15% off your order.
Go grab your superfoods.
Well, it's Richard's turn now, and we're ready to hear this deep, sultry voice of his. I'm curious to hear his answers too. So we're gonna let Cathey take it away, and ask Richard some things now.
yes, I'm ready. All right. So Richard is the intended father. I am carrying his son, which is amazing, and it's really been a great time for us to be together on this trip, and because Richard and I don't see each other as much, so it's nice to have like just quality time where he gets to hang with the bump.
Yeah.
So Richard, tell the listeners, when did you and Sarah first talk about surrogacy, and kind of what were your initial thoughts about that process for you guys?
Yeah, so I didn't know really anything about surrogacy. I think probably the first time it came up was right around when Sarah had her partial hysterectomy. I think it was probably that day in the hospital was probably when I first heard, maybe you mentioned it to her or mention it to both of us. I can't really remember, but That was like a really heavy day. Obviously, that was in a lot of ways kind of I don't know, kind of like a funeral in some ways. Like we were burying, a lot of our hopes, I guess, for future children, and we were just kind of saying goodbye to all that. So that was, yeah.
I was going to say too, a lot of people that don't know us personally and don't know our story, they have asked, "Oh, you have a daughter?" Because I guess they didn't really know that's how that everything started. But I think Richard and I, we both come from big families. Like I'm a family of four, from a family of 4 siblings, and so is Richard. And our dream as a family is always to give Charlotte a sibling and to have multiple. Obviously we're going to be a family of 4 and we're thrilled, but I think it was Richard and I both, it was like a moment where we were fighting for my life, but also grieving what you thought maybe your life would be like, grieving future plans as a couple.
Yeah, exactly. It was it came up, I think, and I didn't really know anything about. I heard Sarah, I think the Kardashians maybe did it, or one of them did it or something. So I knew in a broad sense kind of what it was, but I obviously wasn't hip to the ins and outs of it. So
I called Kim and she gave us all the deets.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that was probably the first day, and it probably kind of went in one ear and out the other, just because, like I said, that was a pretty heavy day for everybody, and I don't think it really came up again for probably a couple months after that.
Yeah.
After the dust had kind of settled from all that, and then once it did, is kind of when I started to do a deep dive on. Because you really have to re-educate yourself on a lot of things, like the female anatomy, the female body, how a baby's made, how, you know what I mean? Because you learn it when you're little, and then, I'm sure, Cathey, it was more in your wheelhouse than ours, because it kind of goes along with your field of study, I feel like. But for a guy, I was pretty...
Yeah, I feel like you're not alone. Actually, I talk to a lot of even women now who still are wait, can we go back to the basics? I feel like the basics actually are not ever taught unless you have fertility issues, and then you have to actually go back and learn the basics.
So when I was getting a partial hysterectomy, I literally had friends or work friends or acquaintances that heard about a partial hysterectomy. They were and I was well, they just take your uterus, they leave your ovaries. And literally, I think I had someone say okay, where is the uterus? What is the uterus?
Isn't that terrible?
And it was what? And I think I was just familiar with female anatomy because of my cancer journey, and they show you the diagrams and point everything out, but it's kind of complicated.
Yeah.
It is complicated down there. Yeah, so I feel what happened was we threw it out there, and I remember your oncologist throwing it out that Sarah, you could have a surrogate, but you guys said, we were this is Cathey talking, we were in the place of just making sure Sarah was going to be okay. So I feel it was the next year, I remember the next February. So your hysterectomy was April of 2018?
I was going to say, Richard said it was a couple months, but I think we were both just in a fog. Realistically, after my partial hysterectomy, I had 6 more months of chemo, and then almost maybe 4 more months of chemo, and then a whole year where you have to wait before you do any kind of egg retrieval. So it probably was a good 13 or 14 months till we started to really have the conversations.
And then you guys went to the fertility clinic. Really, before you approached me and Alex, you guys took us out to breakfast, but because we had mentioned, but before that, you guys went to the fertility clinic and just did some basics.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Richard, and you might want to speak to this too, you were having a lot of questions, but you also had a friend who had just gone through IVF and surrogacy. So you had at least someone in your life a good friend who had kind of had their wife go through that.
Yeah, I had a good buddy who did it they were probably 6 months ahead of us or something like that. So that was good to be able to kind of bounce, I guess, general questions off of them. But yeah, it was, I guess it was probably like a year afterward, and just trying to get you to the other side of getting healthy. And then once we felt a little better about that is when we started to really look into it and start having serious conversations with you guys about it.
So you guys had gone to the fertility clinic just to like ask questions about the finances of it and the process of it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a general consultation, get general questions answered. I think they do like a general health screening to make sure you're even qualified or whatever to be able to do it.
And when we went to breakfast, you guys took us out to breakfast because Sarah and I were like talking about it pretty seriously. Mm-hmm. And we wanted the boys to be involved. And so you guys took us out to breakfast and just kind of filled us in on your consult and what you had learned. So tell us about, like, you wanted to ask, but it was hard. Like, I remember you also looked into agencies just to make sure, like, we felt like we had options. How were you feeling, like, when you sat down and started bringing this up with me and Alex?
Yeah, no doubt. So for me, and that's another thing. You and Sarah had kind of had some initial conversations before me and Alex ever did. And, that was very, very important to me. Like, as a man to man, it's obviously a huge ask of somebody. So it's not like you're just, hey man, can I borrow your weed eater for a week or whatever? It's like,
You totally can though.
I was gonna say, side note, we actually need your weed eater.
Yeah. So I mean,
City life.
It's a big deal, obviously, and that was kind of to piggyback on what Alex said earlier about what were your, I guess, initial fears or whatever. That was a big thing with me, is I wanted to make sure I didn't want y'all to feel pressured at all. And I know, Cathey, you were kind of like, you were voluntarily, you wanted to do it. Mm-hmm.
I told you guys, if you use somebody else, I'll be mad.
Right.
But we knew that it was a long process, and I had to be...
And it's different for Alex, too, I think. Because,
yeah.
It's... When it's your wife, it's just... I know how that is. I know anyone who's had kids, having a pregnant wife, men out there, if you ever had a pregnant wife, you know how the challenge of that. So
challenging. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure Alex was, cool with it.
I wanted that, too. Like I've said, I'm usually a quick decision maker. So obviously I knew that this was a big deal for our whole families, you guys, Alex, our kids. And so that initial conversation, I think, was getting Alex to understand the process as well. So,
and also, like, on Richard and I's side, we wanted to do our due diligence before, we were for sure, like, on board. And, you guys were on board, I mean. And we did talk to a surrogacy agency because we just wanted to feel like we had gone through all the options. And Richard, like, you and I had a conference call with Await Surrogacy, who, if anyone's listening who doesn't have a sibling or a family member willing to be a surrogate, they're an incredible agency, and they were incredible. They called me back at like 10 o'clock at night and were like, let's chat. So they were incredible, but Richard and I had kind of done some background work where we had just kind of looked at several other options. But
yeah, I think that was good. Y'all did that too to make sure we had an out if we all of a sudden felt red flags about it. Okay, so next question, Richard, you're having a son. Are you excited? Are you ready for baby number 2? Are y'all ready for some sleepless nights in diapers?
We're ready.
Yeah, I'm so hyped to have a son. I am really just ready for like a different experience, honestly. Like, Charlotte is my favorite little human in the world, obviously. Wouldn't trade her for the world. But just talking to you guys and other friends that have had boys, I think it's just a different thing. It's just a different experience. So it's not...
You mean you don't love getting makeovers and putting bows in your hair?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Richard's like, why is everything pink?
Yeah, it'll just be a different... Like, don't get me wrong, girls are the best. I love Charlotte so much. She's been... And through our past, like, years, she's been such a little ball of,
Joy.
Yeah, and the age, she's so transparent and innocent and just funny, and she's been such a little light in our life that we've needed really, really bad. So she's been out the best. But I am excited to just do it's just gonna be a different thing with a boy.
It is.
I'm excited for that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So John Ryder's nurse, we're saying his name on the podcast, by the way. John Ryder. Okay. His nursery, Richard and I have been kind of doing it together, and I'm like a control freak, so I've been like overdoing it. Like I'm like almost done pretty much. But Richard walked in the other day and he was like, let's get some, like, he was like taking stuff down. He was like, let's get some like deer heads and stuff on the wall in here or something. Like,
yeah, it'll be cool just to kind of, you've kind of taken the reins with Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I kind of defer to you in a lot of things. I feel like women raise women, men raise men, kind of, for the most part.
I feel like
For
there's
certain
definitely
things,
for certain
things.
For certain things, right. And that's what I'm saying. It'll be cool to take the reins on some things with a boy.
yeah. And it'll be sweet to have him like look up to you and like learn from you like as a father. I think that's exciting.
So while we're just in this stage of watching him grow and nesting and preparing, Richard, how does it feel to watch your baby grow in my belly?
To be honest, it's kind of like what Alex said. It really hasn't been that weird. I thought it would be a lot weirder, but with guys too, at least for me personally, I don't know, everyone's different, but even with Charlotte, I'd never felt super connected to Charlotte really until she was here and I held her and I had spent some time with her and changed her diaper and rocked her to sleep. All that stuff is kind of, I think men connect a little differently, obviously, than women. And it's not as easy as for us to do it. When you carry a child, you're kind of making that connection early, I guess, through the pregnancy. Whereas we're kind of off to the side, and we can't really do that until they're here. So it really hasn't been that weird. I feel like, and you've been awesome. You've been around. I get to see you a lot, and like Sarah was talking about, I get to feel him kick and all that stuff. So it's strange. I mean, obviously, it's strange seeing your child in another woman's belly.
Yeah. We kind of have a little weird science family going on right now, but it's really sweet too.
But yeah, it really hasn't been as weird as you may think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I think many fathers relate to you in that, where they connect when the baby's born. So it's not too different.
Mm-hmm.
So what we asked Alex this question, but we want to know from your point of view what your friends and family thought when you told them you and Sarah were having a baby via surrogate.
Oh, my friends were all just really happy for me. They're kind of idiots about it like me. Like I think they looked at me like, wait, what?
How is this possible? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, once you explain it to them, like, this is me and Sarah's baby. It's our DNA. It's our child. It's going to look like us, all that. But yeah, you have to explain it to them because, like I said, I just think the average American male probably isn't too aware of what the ins and outs of surrogacy. So, and then my parents were just excited. Like, yeah, I think if you had to like boil it down to one word, I would just say like excitement. Everyone was just really excited for us.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we've had a lot of support, I think, on all sides of our family, so that really helps. So we've had kind of a different experience than most because of surrogacy, but also because of COVID. So Richard, you came to the transfer. You and Sarah had to take turns being back there with me at the transfer. And then, so like the conception. And then you weren't able to come to an appointment again until 20 weeks. So was it hard not to feel involved? Or I guess that's kind of typical too. Did you go to a lot of appointments with Sarah when she was pregnant with Charlotte?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. Again, I mean, it hasn't felt that weird. I don't know why. Maybe it's just different for the guy, maybe, but you've been, awesome. I get plenty of daily updates from you and Sarah, and so I feel like I've definitely been in the know. It hasn't been weird in that way, but
Yeah, and it's loosened up some, the restrictions.
so stupid.
Yeah.
I do feel like on the 20-week appointment, though, when you were actually there to, like, see the ultrasound and be there in person, I do feel like something changed, like, it clicked, or you, like,
Yeah.
you got really excited when you saw
Yeah, the past
him.
month it's become a lot more real. I think just seeing him on the ultrasound, and then having Cathey, her belly gets bigger. It's just gotten a lot more real. And what are we, 4 months out? So
You wanted to make sure he was a boy.
Confirmed.
You were like on the ultrasound.
yeah.
Yeah, confirmed.
Confirmed.
So speaking of birth plan, this is the last thing we'll say because people do ask us this question about the birth plan and like the COVID restrictions. So we went through counseling initially, and they did say, we don't know how COVID restrictions are going to change. It may be just Sarah and Cathey in the delivery room. And we were like, okay, we know that's a possibility, but we obviously want Richard, like the mother and the father of the baby, to be in the room. So thankfully now they've loosened up restrictions. And our goal is for all 4 of us to be in the birth room. People ask that question.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be cool. I'm going to take a behind-the-shoulder approach, I think. Sarah, I think, is going to maybe cut the cord.
I think we decided I was going to cut the cord. So as an intended parent and a mom who is not actually giving birth to my son, I had a lot of questions about the actual birth and like the moments after. And I had a friend who had already been through it who gave me a lot of insight. And Cathey and I are actually going to do a separate episode on birth plan and our plans for breastfeeding and like the hospital stay and kind of like what to expect. But all in all, I think we would all prefer to all be in the room. Mm-hmm. And that will be a really sweet moment because the doctor who's Cathey's OB was also my OB with Charlotte and the one who found my cancer. So I think it will just be a really sweet, like, full circle moment for everybody. So we're excited, and we're hoping that the COVID restrictions are like completely lifted by August.
If not, we're going to dress Alex up like a doctor, and he's
Oh,
going to
for
sneak
sure.
on in.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that.
You would
Yeah.
totally be. I could totally see you as a doctor.
Get some scrubs and a white coat.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Well, that's all the questions we had for the boys today.
I have a question
Okay,
Oh.
Alex has a question.
Okay.
for
Off.
Sarah and Richard.
Oh, this is off.
Yeah, going off script.
Going off script here. Yeah.
If Cathey hadn't been a viable candidate and you were kind of forced to go a different direction, do you think that you'd be at this point in the journey or close to it? Or do you think you would have taken longer to consider your options?
Oh, I don't know if we'd be this far along. I think just because it was Cathey, things moved really quickly, and she's like the perfect candidate. I had no doubt that she would pass all their screening and stuff. But Richard and I we're both processors, and we both want to make sure we're doing the best thing for our family. So part of me feels like we would have taken a lot more time to like vet surrogates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It would have been a completely different path for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Cathey's like I don't think we could have picked a better candidate because, it's like what she does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to worry about, there's just always the unknowns, I guess, with a stranger. I don't know, maybe not. I mean,
Yeah, I think
didn't-
even if I wasn't like in the health profession, you guys would at least trust me as a human to like make moral choices for the baby I'm taking care of.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
you're obviously my other half, so you're like pretty much like an extension of me. You also are an amazing mother. And so, yeah, I think that if Cathey for some reason backed out, or like you were like, this isn't going to work for our family, or if she didn't pass a test, like we probably would have taken several other months to just like vet the surrogate process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have taken longer too. Like I can't speak to using an agency because we didn't do that, but I'm sure that with using an agency, there's a few other things that you have to jump through. But we would have definitely still pursued surrogacy
Mm-hmm.
for sure. It probably just would have taken a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Alex?
Yes, Richard.
Or
can you
Richard.
think of any? This is so fun to
don't
have
think
us
so.
all. It's usually Cathey and I, or maybe a guest. So,
What were y'all's biggest fears?
who? Me and
who?
Cathey?
Yeah. Cathey, what was your biggest fear?
Oh, my biggest fear was, as you said, honestly, failure, like the transfer not working and us having to do it multiple times, kind of my body going through the ringer for that. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. I'm just so grateful for that. And then, so like my health and safety, but also that I was geared up and excited about it, and then that it would subsequently not be an ideal thing for our family. But again, like me and you talked about, kind of trusting the process, we had to have a lot of green lights and open doors to get to this point. So it felt easy considering the situation. So I just continued to like trust that process. But yeah, I think like the health and safety of myself and then their baby.
Yeah, I think I would say the exact same thing. Like my biggest fear is like, obviously I'd been through a pregnancy, so I know what it kind of takes a toll on your body and how it is emotionally. And I think just I knew what to expect. And I'm probably not the best person to ask because like I didn't really have a great pregnancy. Like I had a lot of complications afterwards. So my number one was just to make sure that Cathey was safe and healthy physically, but also safe and healthy emotionally. And so that's been like my number one concern like the whole time. But we've had a really good experience so far. Knock on wood, like it just is, we've had amazing doctors who have reassured us of a million things. We've been over and above and beyond like the testing and the precautions. So it's been really smooth so far. It's been really happy about that. Well, guys, we have to get back to the beach because we're on our...
We've rented some cabanas for the day.
We have 2 cabanas next to each other. It is a dream. We have perfect weather, so we need to get back to the sun, but we're excited to air this episode. Boys, husbands, thanks for amusing us and being on the podcast today.
Anytime.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye,
All
guys.
right, bye, everybody.
Bye.